Since if I'm doing any sort of retinal imaging, is I'll pull up the photograph and I zoom in on the optic nerve and I go, this is your optic nerve. This is proof you have a brain. And I wait because they're always with someone, or I wait for a laugh because if it's a husband and wife or a mother and child, like, or siblings are my favorite. They're like, see, I told you I had a brain. And I was like, I didn't tell you how well it works. I just told you that it functions, right?
Hey, eyes and shine there, my friends and colleagues, and welcome to the I Give a Damn podcast, brought to you by Fluorescene Media, the sim company behind ODs on Facebook. Today's episode is sponsored by Bausch & Lomb Blink NutriTears. If you have not seen or heard of Blink NutriTears yet, Blink NutriTears is a new clinically proven supplement for dry eyes and is designed to help hydrate the eyes from within for long-lasting comfort. Developed with the expertise of both eye care and nutritional experts, Blink NutriTears features a unique formula of antioxidants, including that of lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin D, and curcumin. And unlike many other supplements, it does not contain omega-3. As shown in a clinical study published in Frontiers in Ophthalmology, Blink NutriTears provided noticeable, continuous symptom relief within just 2 to 4 weeks. And it was able to do this by addressing dry eyes from the inside out, promoting healthy tear production and reducing patient discomfort. So, if you're looking for a first-line protocol for your dry eye management plan, then Blink NutriTears could be what you've been searching for. Blink NutriTears will be available both online as well as in the eyecare aisle at most major retailers nationwide by the end of July 2024. Now, let's get back to the episode. And today, our special guest is Dr. Mark Schaeffer. You may know Dr. Schaeffer from many of his lectures that he gives throughout the country, as he's a very popular and talented speaker. Today, we dive a little bit more into his history, his reasons, and his why in really how he found optometry and really his passions and why he gives a damn about everything that he does. I'm really excited to be sharing this conversation, so without further ado, let's dive into it with Dr. Mark Schaeffer.
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me. It's really exciting to be on the couch, right? Like everybody loves being on the couch. My name is Mark Schaeffer. I'm an optometrist in Birmingham, Alabama. I joke that I've been in eye care for 39 years, and like I get it, right? So second generation optometrist. My dad's an optometrist, my sister is an optometrist, and my brother is also an optometrist.
Wow.
So lots of fun dinner conversations around the house. Thank goodness I'm not married to an optometrist, because that gives me at least a break somewhere to not talk about eyes.
I mean, did you always just know from that young age that, like, I guess I'm going into optometry, or?
So the interesting thing is that, like, no, like all three of us were not going into optometry our senior years of college. So it took me a while to get through what I wanted to do in college. I had 7 majors at the University of Georgia, graduated in 4.5 years, but I finished with a degree in marketing, and I am an avid sports fan, followed the Georgia Bulldogs, go Dogs, and I thought I wanted to do sports marketing, but I was still very interested in healthcare, just being around it and seeing the impact that it can have. So I was also interviewing as an intern, as a legislative assistant on Capitol Hill in healthcare. And then after I graduated, while I was figuring out what I was going to do, my dad, which I'd had every job you could ever think of in an optometric practice before I graduated. So I was, a file clerk. I put up charts. I blocked and edged lenses. I was a janitor one summer and cleaned offices. I was a courier and delivered to every office. I was our inventory clerk. So coming from a show like Vision Expo, we would get new frames. I would catalog, tag, put their planograms together so that we could have SKU tags for every single office and managing that inventory. But my dad offered me a role to do 2 clinical trials and help run those. So that way I could, if I wanted to go into healthcare, I would have some experience of running clinical trials, so some healthcare marketing experience. And then really fell in love with the day-to-day of seeing patients coming into the office, because it's not something that I got to experience a lot of. It was mostly after hours or Saturdays or just other types of experiences. But seeing and working in the clinic every single day and seeing that I can make a difference, I can make a change, I can help people and develop relationships with people over a career, it was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I'm now going to optometry school.
Well, I'm really happy for you that you've had that journey and you've had so many experiences in that. No wonder it seems pretty obvious to me why you've found success in being like a private practice, and you own a private practice.
So I'm part of MyEyeDr. So we're a private equity group. We were a family practice of 18 locations and 24 doctors, and then we were acquired in 2017. So now my role with MyEyeDr is I'm a clinical excellence captain. So I help new doctors who are hired into our system and into our family. I help onboard them so they can understand the culture, how we run things, our EHR system, and kind of help shepherd that onboarding process.
Well, again, congratulations on that as well. I'm curious because, again, you said your original, or what you finally did graduate with in undergrad, was marketing.
Yes.
And I can see, at least for myself, I can see how that ripple effect has applied very well to probably not just your ability to network within our profession and elevate to high levels, working with industry and so many facets, but also how it has maybe helped you in patient care and communication.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at when I was in undergrad, my final project in my senior marketing class was like developing a marketing campaign for a restaurant. And so we used, for advertising, we used the yellow pages and direct mail. And then I went to optometry school and it was like, all of this is useless, right? Like no one does yellow pages. Like, what is a yellow page? And direct mail, like my mail that comes to my house, I'm like, if it doesn't, I'm throwing it away unless it's something that I need to pay or something that I'm getting paid.
If it has IRS on it,
right,
I'm going to keep that.
I'm going to keep that. I want to get rid of it, but I kind of have to. So having that and being able to come back to it, the principles are all the same, right? Marketing is about understanding what people are trying to do, and then how do you bring to them a product, a service, something else yourself in order to help deliver something that they're looking for or that they don't know exists.
Right, you're trying to kind of help them as a service, even just bringing it to their attention. And I think that's a big part of our role in our industry, that so many of patients, they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand maybe our value. They don't know our education, our services, right? You may have a patient in a contact lens that's been fitting well, serving them well for a decade.
Yep.
But they don't know about the new technologies that have come out.
Oh, absolutely not. So there's another person that I'm always involved with. His name's Shane Kanar. He's out of Kansas. He said that eyecare is the best value in healthcare because we can do so much. And sometimes we could be our best PR in the exam lane because we have one-on-one PR moments and relationship building moments every single day in that exam lane. And sometimes we don't use that opportunity. Like, we have the opportunity to really elevate our profession just by checking the health of the back of the eye. I can screen for over 270 systemic diseases, and seeing patients' faces react to that of like, just from this? And you're like, yeah, just from this, right? Like, this is part of what we do, is not just glasses and contact lenses, which is why patients really choose to come into us to see us. But when we have the opportunity to elevate that and help them with everything that's going on in their life, or give them that peace of mind, we're really doing well beyond what they expect out of their copay for their vision plan or their insurance or whatever it is that we're charging for our services. They see a tremendous value in that when you give them all of the information that you're seeing every single day.
Right. And so, that's the challenge, kind of the time commitment, because it takes time.
Yeah.
To spend to educate your patient and tell them exactly what you're doing, what you're looking for. But I think clearly you recognize that, and I imagine you spend a lot of time with patient education.
Yeah, I think, chair time, we use it as like a negative word in our profession. It's like, we got to reduce chair time, or we got to improve chair time, or we need to get to a point where we have less chair time. But in actual reality, like, it's an investment in our patient, right? Like, every moment, time is more valuable than money, they say, or time is money. That investment, that 30 seconds of literally just saying 270 systemic diseases from a comprehensive exam, that 30 seconds is a huge investment in that time. Educating about new technologies you're investing in that patient, remembering that you're their expert. You're the person that they went to see, and they're going to remember, even if they don't do an upgrade into a new technology, just the fact that you mentioned it, right? My job as an eye care provider is to give you what's available. Your job as a patient, and this is what I tell you, your job is to tell me what works for you, right? It's a menu at a restaurant. We don't limit the menu just because this person, for whatever reason, like we need to make sure that we're educating patients that, hey, even if this isn't an option or you don't feel like this is an option, know that this is out there. So if you ever change your mind, you don't have to think, well, why not me? It's this like dichotomy of like patients expect the doctors to tell them what they're a candidate for, and doctors expect the patient to tell them what they want to be in. So there's this disconnect of like, well, my patient would say it if they really wanted to, and the patient's thinking, well, if my doctor would tell me I'm a candidate, then I would definitely do it. And so there's this like, if we just communicated just a little bit, it would go a really long way in helping to ease that gap of helping patients understand that we have a lot of tools, we have a lot of technologies, and we have a lot of things that we can help solve their problems that they have or they may not know are causing suffering in their life.
On that note, we kind of talked a little bit before the episode, but again, we call this the I Give a Damn podcast because we really wanted to talk about things that drive us, that we're passionate about, or things that frustrate us, because clearly it only frustrates us about our profession, about the industry, because we care about it. What would you say you give a damn about?
Right now, I give a damn about a lot of stuff, but like right now, the biggest thing for me is helping to prioritize the expertise that we have, because again, I've been in eye care, even though I've been practicing for 12 years, I've been in eye care for 39 years, and I remember a day where we used to be protective over our patients about going down the street to somebody else, right? Like we need to preserve our patient base instead of going down the street because we want our patients to remain our patients. What I'm worried about now is that our patients aren't choosing someone else down the street. They're choosing no care, or they're choosing the internet as their primary mode of how they get care for themselves. And that is a huge disservice to everybody. It's a disservice to us as primary care providers. It's a disservice to patients. It's a disservice to all the people who are putting millions of dollars into research and development to help find these tools to help reach these patients and give them an opportunity to experience something that they've never experienced before. So all of that is like, these patients that are coming in every single day are one-on-one small opportunities for us to make a huge impact in our profession. Because if all 40,000 licensed optometrists or 30,000 practicing optometrists took that 30 seconds to say, this is what I do every single day for you, to every patient, think about the numbers that we see every single year. That's going to multiply a tremendous amount. And I get that we're all busy, and this is work. It's not easy. It's not just routine. It can become, but we have the opportunity to elevate our profession so easily. But it takes time, it takes energy, and it takes like a desire, and it takes a damn, right? You got to give a damn about the future of this profession.
And so what do you think is kind of like the biggest, what do you think that's caused this change? Like you said, we used to worry about them walking down the street. Do you think it's purely just the advent of the internet? Do you think it's mindset change of even our patients?
Well, I think it's when you go in. So I use this analogy when I'm talking about contact lens prescriptions is if you think about your driver's license, right? You have a sheet of paper that gives you the right to do an activity that you've been doing for years. You got to take time off from work. You got to go to a place. You got to wait in line. You pay a fee. You get a new sheet of paper with a signature on it. Now, if that's your contact lens exam and that's what you're doing and just rubber stamping what they've been in and not talking to them about anything, now that service becomes, okay, well, why did I take all that time off just to be able to do something that I can do? With the way that our internet system works these days is I have access to it and I can order it with a passive verification system.
Yeah, very passive, right? Not personal at all, no connection. It purely is a transaction. That's all it
Correct.
is.
And so you'll see that this is now why? What's the value of going to see an eye doctor if all I'm getting is a piece of paper that says the lens that I was in or the prescription that I'm in? I still think I'm doing well. So why would I need to go see somebody to get it refilled if I can just get it anywhere?
And that makes sense in my mind. It's kind of clicking and seeing how that perception, that the consumer buyer's experience, yeah, it gets diminished. It seems very like why am I doing this? Why am I paying this fee? Why is it higher now because I'm wearing a multifocal? What's the value?
And it's commoditized, right? Like it's a product that's a medical device, but it has become commoditized. Like if you look at some of the data from the Contact Lens Institute, which is, the 4 major manufacturers have an agnostic body that helps research customer and eye care opinions. Our customers, our patients, and contact lens wearers, 6 out of 10 of them feel that contact lenses are roughly the same. And like you can talk to anybody who's walking the halls of any exhibit hall, who's in clinic every day. All contact lenses are not the same. But our patients have that mentality because maybe we haven't done as good of a job educating on that. Maybe our patients haven't been taking to that message. But now is the time for us to continue to make that message that having your care done through us is the right way to go by listening to what's new and available and out there.
And I think I always like using the analogy of smartphones with a lot of patients, because at face value, if you just put all the newest smartphones of every competitor on the table, just by looking at it from a few feet away, they all look the same. They can call people, they can text people, they can search on the internet, they have cameras in them. But once you pick it up and you really start understanding how it functions, you can tell that they're different. The challenge with our eyes is that the prescription, the powers, what the work you've done getting the refraction and using your knowledge of the lenses and how to fit the lenses, that is where this other component of value comes in, right? And so people lose that small, subtle differences.
Well, and the other thing is that when you have a phone, you have features that you can actually point to, right? You have an interface that you can point to. Your vision is the interface, right? It's like, this is the interface of what I'm seeing through. But once that piece of plastic goes onto the eye, it's a piece of plastic on the eye. There's no other like bells or whistles or anything that goes into it. It's just, do I feel it or do I not feel it? Is my vision clear? Is it not clear? Those are the answers. And so it becomes a challenge, but this is why you prescribe a lens. This is why you say, this is the lens I'm choosing. And you tie it into the patient and their experience and give them that opportunity to feel it and experience it. And then they can make that estimated or that better judgment of, this is the lens that I really want to be in, or maybe it's not this year. And again, if a patient tells you no because they don't want to upgrade, I'd rather fail doing something beyond what they're used to than just keep them doing the same thing and fail by them not knowing what's out there.
Completely agree on all of that. I try my best in clinic to always try to offer something to my patients, and I always try to explain to them why I'm flipping their eyelid. You're this type of contact lens wearer, you wear extended wears, you're at much higher risk of infection and other complications, irritation, dryness. And I always talk about the deposits. Do you talk about deposits? Because I always mention they're like barnacles on a ship that build up over time.
I've never heard that, but that's really good. I will definitely be stealing that now, actually. Like, you learn something new when you get to converse like this, and I've never thought about it like that, but I definitely, when I flip, I'm looking for inflammation under the eye that may cause long-term issues, that may keep you out of lenses as short as a day, as long as 6 months, because we've all seen that. But doing something different in an eye exam, I push on every single patient's meibomian glands because I want to see what comes out. And I have patients who've been wearing glasses and contact lenses for 40, 50, 60 years who are like, no one's ever done that before. And it's like, why are you doing that?
Or maybe they did, but they never said what they were doing
Correct.
or what they were looking for.
Correct. And so it becomes another talking piece of like, I'm looking at your tear film to make sure that everything is working the way that it does, because we know that tear film and vision and dry eye disease and your vision are so interconnected that it can lead to a lot of issues if you don't treat early and see it early.
Right. And I think just to tie it back to, again, your degree in marketing, when we are educating patients, even just telling them, that little thing of what you're doing extra, to us, it's like, yeah, this is normal. This is something we're doing every exam. But to the patient experience, when you're explaining that, you're not just educating, you are marketing your value.
Oh, absolutely.
And the value of your services, your time, your expertise to every single one of those patients.
I almost think back to boards when you're like trying to pass and you're like, I'm now placing a parallel pipette beam at 45 degrees to look at the anterior. And you're like, all right, I'm never going to do this in real life. But it's like, maybe not that, but let's find a middle ground of like, hey, I'm examining this area or I'm looking at this. And number of patients who, like, one of my favorite things I'm doing right now is I'm challenging my early teenage patients to ask a question. I'm like, are you ready for a challenge today? And they're like, sure. And I'm like, your job, your challenge is to ask me one question about your eyes. I don't care what it is, but I want you to become curious. I want you to ask a question because at some point you're going to be in charge of your own healthcare and you need to advocate. Just because I'm an adult and I'm a doctor and I'm your care provider doesn't mean that this isn't a conversation. And if you have a care provider that doesn't want to take questions, you need to find a new doctor. And like, I want to advocate for younger patients to understand that. And parents are like, all right, like, yes, I love that.
I'm going to steal this from you.
Please.
This, you're planting a seed. You're, even if it's one kid at a time, you are changing their thought, not just about you as an eye care professional, but their health.
Correct.
And how they take care of themselves, think about their own body, but then how they communicate with other healthcare professionals.
I mean, it's the whole permission structure of like, it's your care, right? I can only do so much. Like, no matter if it's glaucoma, dry eye disease, contact lenses, everything, all I can do is prescribe, right? In some states, we can do laser, so we kind of have a little bit more leeway in what the patient's compliance is like. But all I can do is recommend, prescribe, and tell you why. It's your job to be compliant, to listen to the instructions, but we're all humans, right? Like, I'm supposed to have a monthly medication regimen. Am I on time every time? No. But we can't expect our patients to be perfect either, but we have to give them a reason why, and a compelling reason why. And so having that permission structure and giving them that opportunity, there's a lot more buy-in, and they understand that. So again, all we can do is give them options, tell them why it's important, and then let them make the educated decision. But now it's a conversation and not just an interaction.
I think just to kind of emphasize that point a little bit, because I love the reason why. It takes a lot more time to explain that, but it has a ripple effect that is more long-standing. And I get into that with patients with diabetes because they've heard from their doctors, sometimes for a decade, take your medication.
Right.
We need you to lower your glucose.
Yep.
But they don't know why. They don't even know why they have to come see me.
Yep.
Other than they're like, yeah, I might have to check my eyes for diabetes.
Yep.
But it's
part of the checkbox.
Yeah, but I always spend this extra time. And I remember I educated a father because their daughter had type 1 diabetes. And I spent the time explaining to both her and the dad how diabetes is affecting not just the eye, but why and how it pathophysiologically affects them. And the dad loved that extra time to the point where his younger son had never had an eye exam.
Yep.
Got him scheduled.
Yep.
His wife got scheduled. He scheduled. They all came in for an eye exam just to see me because I spent that extra time.
Yeah.
But I think, that's something they haven't gotten.
Correct. And it's again, it takes the time, right? You have that voice on your shoulder that's like, hey, you've got 2 patients waiting, or hey, it's the last patient before lunch, or it's been a busy morning, or whatever it is. And like, we all get it. I get it. There are times where I'm like, I should probably go into the 5th thing that I want to talk about, but I'm only going to do 4 today, right? Like, I only have that much in me today. But we do that. But we got to remember that these are people. When we do our best job, right, we're ensuring vision and eye health for what we assume to be 365 days, right? If a patient is perfectly compliant, we are affecting how they literally live their life for 365 days in 20 minutes. Like, you will not have a greater impact in someone's life with less amount of time in any endeavor ever. Right. So if we can take that time and it's a very humbling responsibility to remember if they are compliant and come back in 1 year, which we know the data doesn't suggest, but that's how they interact with their family. That's how they do all of their hobbies. That's how they provide a living to their family. That's how they do everything that they do. When we have that responsibility, like, we have to remember that they're trusting us as their eye care expert. So we need to do everything that we can to either preserve it, tell them how we can make it better, or at least give them the opportunity to ask a lot of questions. And by doing that, it makes that experience and it makes that relationship so much stronger.
I just thought of this because do you think if people thought about their eye health more like they were thinking about their brain health? Because I think even kids understand early on, like, oh, the brain, that's really where all this magic happens that makes life happen. Do you think people would prioritize if they thought of it like, no, this isn't just an eye exam, this is a brain health check every single year? Do you think that?
I mean, one of the things that I do when I have patients, if I'm doing any sort of retinal imaging, is I'll pull up the photograph and I zoom in on the optic nerve and I go, this is your optic nerve. This is proof you have a brain. And I wait because they're always with someone, or I wait for a laugh because if it's a husband and wife or a mother and child, like, or siblings. Siblings are my favorite. They're like, see, I told you I had a brain. And I was like, I didn't tell you how well it works. I just told you that it functions, right? And so now, again, you're creating levity. You're creating a little bit like an eye exam. Sometimes it's not the best place you want to be. Like, no one loves the doctor's office. But at least it provides, again, another opportunity for those connections, those moments of like, hey, listen, I get it. But thank you for coming in here. Like, I can show you all of these things, right? Like, this is what we do. And so having the ability to kind of transition that into body health, eye health, because I think most of our patients are just thinking, oh, I'm just getting glasses and contact lenses. Everything else is just to make sure my glasses and contact lenses work. Mm-hmm. Unless you have a history of glaucoma, a history of macular degeneration, or family history, or family member who has that, or any other condition, that's when you start asking the questions. But, you know, our patients still use urgent care for their red eyes. They still call on, a primary care doctor to call in sulfacetamide drops. Like, we're having that problem with red eyes, and it's like, this is our domain. Like, how on earth are you going anywhere else for your eye care but your eye doctor? So we can do so much better in our own exam lanes every single day by making small changes that impact that patient relationship and impact that patient's life that are not 30, 45-minute encounters. It's 30 to 45 seconds. And just choosing one to incorporate into your practice. Like, I just want to say how great it is, or how great it is to have a new technology. That's it. And now you've incorporated something that patient's going to remember that you said. Whether they remember it or not, they'll remember that you said it. They'll remember that you told them about something different rather than, all right, great, your prescription's maybe changed. Let's get you out of here.
And sometimes, maybe they're not in a good mood that day. Maybe they're not in a purchasing decision that day. But the fact, I'm sure you've had it, because I know I've experienced it, where I'll mention something one year, they come in the next year or 2 years later, and I'm mentioning it again. Mm-hmm. And then finally they're like, oh yeah, I do remember you talking about that last year. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and get that now.
And again, it's a positive investment in time because you're trying to elevate their care. It's not your fifth remake where you're trying to explain to a patient that they have 20/70 cataracts. They're never going to see better no matter what lens I put in front of their eye. That's a negative use of time.
That's such a realistic example,
and
too.
Everyone knows that, right? Everyone's had that patient. But the patient that you're like, listen, I hear that you're seeing well. It's the toric patient that has just like 3/4 of a diopter still and sees 20/25. if I'm going to fail, let me fail trying to make your vision 2015. If that's not great, okay, fine. Like, I'm totally okay with failing as long as we're still satisfied at the end of the day.
So I do kind of want to just pivot a little bit because we're kind of talking about the value of bringing new technology into your patients' lives, talking about these new, whether it be new medical, pharmaceuticals that are in the world, or new procedures. Maybe you brought on a new instrument, diagnostics, something. I know you're pretty ahead of the game in some ways. You work with industry in some capacity. Is there just any specific new tech that's on the market today, or something that's in development that you're just excited about, that you think is not just a game changer maybe for your clinic and your other doctors that you work with, but that you just makes you excited about the future of optometry?
I just think the explosion into eye care that we're seeing across all of the spectrum. Like last year, we had 6 FDA approval drops come to market. Most of them were in the dry eye space, but we also have dilation reversal drops. We've got Xdemvy, we've got Mibo, we've got Vivi, we've got Closey, we've got Vuity with twice a day. Like, we have so many different opportunities for us to impact patients' lives, and we've seen a ton of investment from industry side into eye care as to how we can better our patients' lives. So I think I can't really pinpoint one that I'm excited about, because they all excite me a lot in different ways, because it's so nice to have different technologies that we can then provide for our patients to help fill a need that we didn't necessarily have before. Whether that's creating dynamic vision with the ability to see far away and up close, whether that's treating Demodex blepharitis, which has been a pain in our necks for a very long time, whether that's new mechanisms of action for a dry eye medication that targets evaporation. We just have so much that's new that it's hard to digest all of that new stuff at once, but it's an opportunity for us to, again, tailor that message to our patient, to educate our patients as to why we're choosing what we're choosing and why it's the best fit for them. And having all of those options, it makes us better clinicians. It makes us better providers, and it makes that eye exam experience elevated a lot more because we have newer technologies to do that in. So there's not one. I'm just excited to be in eye care right now because we have so many tools and we have so many devices, and just walking the floor at Expo, I'm always taking away something new to try in our practices.
And I think, to kind of even echo the kind of beginning of our conversation, our patients, they don't know quite what's going on in our industry.
They have no idea.
But they are getting some exposure indirectly because so many other fields, for example, VR headsets, have really become part of mainstream society and are becoming hot topics in the tech space. And so if we, as the eye care professional, like your eye guy, right? Like, everyone's got like a car guy. I got, you have
someone texted me today and was like, "You're my contact lens guru. Like, tell me what I need to do." So I'm like, great. I'm glad that you thought that I'm your contact lens guru, but let's go ahead and let's do this.
So I just encourage other professionals to recognize, hey, your patients are getting these messages. Sometimes it's not through healthcare professionals. It's not through somebody who really knows it. They're getting it through marketing. And the marketing sometimes is leading them to think a very different thing versus where the real value, where the real truth is.
And I think it goes to compliance, right? Like, it's funny. I feel like I'm saying this on repeat this week, but it's like, compliance is our friend. Like, I feel like sometimes compliance gets such a bad rap, but like, they give us guardrails and everything has to be proven. Like, we live in a world where we need evidence-based medicine, right? You need to prove that something works on a large number of patients in a controlled environment, right? What happens is that if you don't have anything regulatorily in place, then you make these misleading statements. Then you make these promises or these tidbits or nuggets or anything that is in someone's clinical experience but doesn't necessarily represent the data that's available. And so, like, I truly like compliance because it gives us those guardrails, because we have to point to data, because our patients need to know that something is safe and effective. With all of the recalls that are going on with over-the-counter drops and ointments and everything, trust can be lost very quickly and hard to be gained. But if you have data and numbers and studies and large proof concepts, then you can stand behind that and make those statements and effectively communicate, this is why we're choosing this. And like ultimately our patients, like we live in this paradox because we need those studies. But when a patient sits down in their chair, in our chair, if that doesn't work for them, they don't care if it works for 3,000 other people. So we live in this, like, we got to have individual N of 1 trials, but we have to have thousands to prove that something works. So it's this interesting little, like, is it misleading? Is it, outside the norm or outside the bounds? But like, is it true and false? Show me the data, right? And that's where compliance is so important these days, because you don't know what data you're actually getting or whose data you're actually getting. And now it's more important for us to be diligent in that. And it takes more work for sure, but then you can stand behind something that you trust and know and can have confidence in prescribing, writing, putting into your patients, or talking about.
So, Mark, we covered a couple of different topics, and I think you and I could probably talk for a while, but for the sake of time, I like asking this question toward the end. But for every doctor that comes on, if you could put yourself and imagine yourself being elected tomorrow, you are now the Surgeon General of Optometry. All right.
Ooh.
You have a high seat for the U.S. If you were elected for that, what would be the first thing on your docket? What would your mission be to either change about the profession or to help kind of educate the public about? What do you think would be your mission, your goal for your time in office?
Honestly, my first thing would be a combination, because it has to tie into education and practicality, but it would be a national scope expansion bill, and then training and a re-emphasis of education into practical knowledge. That would be we have to have scope expansion. I think it should be nationwide coverage of that scope expansion. I think we are all fully capable and competent providers to provide surgical procedures as well as laser procedures like SLTs, YAGs, right, those types of procedures, and having the ability to then educate to the level of practical knowledge, not board knowledge.
Right. Especially, it's like what we've been trained, tested, and certified to be done, to do those sort of procedures. We're not going to go in and do cataract surgery, because that's not what we've been trained and tested.
Correct.
On. But I agree in those regards. And I think the confusion in every state to our patients, to the public, not just, it's certainly a problem in the U.S. because every state is so different, but even globally, the term optometry is muddled. It's very people don't know what it means, and that causes a barrier to not just our value, but to understanding the importance of who to see and when. It really confuses everybody.
Oh, I have to explain at least once a day to my patients, like, oh, do I need to see an ophthalmologist because we're talking about glaucoma? And I'm like, no, we've done everything you need to monitor your disease today. I will be able to monitor and treat should we need to go down that pathway. Same with dry eye disease. It's like the only thing that I can't do are lasers and surgery. That's it. Everything else is on the table for me and what I can diagnose and treat.
And I think it's a service to them, not just that you're offering it from your clinic, but it saves them time. They may have better relationship with you. You may probably have more time with that patient than the surgeon probably would.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Because their time is extremely valuable, and like their skill set is oftentimes tailored and really good at one particular, at multiple. And
they would rather be doing surgery, not the co-management or the pre-op work or any of that. They would rather be, let me just do surgery, because our need for these services are so great, and they're only going to get worse. We have a more aging population. We have higher rates of comorbidities, so we're seeing more and more changes. Every retinal practice that we have in our area is just completely full of AMD patients who are getting injections. Patients are living longer. They're living fuller lives, so they have more retinal diseases and more complications to that. they need surgical care and more advanced care that I may not be able to provide because of my scope and because of what they need. But I want to take care of them until the moment I can't, until the moment it is beyond my scope and beyond my skill set. That is the moment that I want to refer them, not while I have the ability and the scope capabilities to take care of that patient.
Right. Otherwise, it's just, you feel, I know this because I'm in the state of Minnesota, we battle with some of that. But I feel like my arm is legally tied behind my back. It's like, I know how to do this, I can do this, but no, I'm sorry, I'm now going to have to refer you. It's going to take a month before you get scheduled. You're going to pay all these extra copays. You have to drive an hour, and take a day off, another day off of work.
Correct.
And it's not always a pleasant experience.
No, it's inconvenient for now, right? Like there will probably come a time in our careers where we're doing a lot of virtual care that is up to the level that we are doing now in-person care. I don't know when that day is, but like we're young enough to where it's going to happen in our lifetime. Yeah,
we're going to see a transformation in that direction.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine in that position you have a lot. You would have a lot on the table to work through and get that going.
Yeah, but we have 40,000 capable, amazing optometrists who are doing this up to a certain point across the entire country. We've seen the track record in states that have it. We know that we are tremendous care providers, compassionate and competent, and are going to use those procedures in a way that is befitting to payer guidelines, right? Like we're not going to defraud just because we have the ability to do so.
Well, Dr. Mark Schaeffer, thank you so much for being here. You're so well spoken. I imagine at some point we may have you on again, but again, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
So that was our episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are somebody who is deeply passionate about our profession or gives a damn about a specific topic that may be affecting our industry in some way, please let us know either in the comment section over on YouTube or in the review section. Leave us a solid review on whatever your favorite podcasting platform is, and let us know if there is a person in our industry that you would love to hear from, or perhaps a specific topic that you would like to hear in more of a deeper conversation on this podcast. Otherwise, thank you so much again for listening in. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next episode.